Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, good evening, everyone. Namaste, and welcome to our Tuesday evening reading and discussion of the book on the life of Sri Sarada Devi, the Holy Mother, published under the title Sri Sarada Devi, Her Divine Play by Swami Chaitananda. Haima and I were just discussing the fact that we're reading about the mother's death at a very auspicious moment, very astrologically auspicious and potent moment. This morning there was a full lunar eclipse, and it was aspected very strongly by other configurations, and so this is the moment in which we're reading about these last few days of Mother's stay with us in physical form. Since there's no such thing as coincidence, we can look on this with some interest, that this is what is happening. Tuesday is, of course, on its own, very special to the Mother. The moon is, of course, special to the Mother. And so this full lunar eclipse, and there won't be another one until 2025. So this was an interesting moment. Any comments or questions from anyone about any of that or anything else having to do with what we've been reading about the Mother and her passing away? All right, dears. Haima, if you would tell us where we're starting.
Sure, Brother Shankara. This is page 726. We are at the last bottom, Shanti Swasthayana, a ritual to remove obstacles and bring peace. All needed.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Namaste.
Please go ahead, dear.
Okay, Brother Shankara. The subheading is Shanti Swasthayana, a ritual to remove obstacles and bring peace. When human efforts fail, people resort to divine help. When Holy Mother's medical treatment was not bearing any result, Sharadananda had the mother's horoscope examined by some noted astrologers. They suggested performing the traditional Shanti Swasthayana, a kind of ritual and prayer to remove obstacles and bring physical, mental, terrestrial, and supernatural peace. Accordingly, Saradananda instructed Swami Vishweshwarananda to perform this ritual for 15 days from 14th to 28th May in a room on the third floor of Udbodhan House.
And that was the floor above Holy Mother's. The ground floor was occupied by the monks and the Udbodhan publication, and had Swami Saradananda's room where he slept, and that was also his office, and so on. And then where the other monks stayed. Then the second floor was the Mother's, and that was the one that had the balcony looking out over the street and to the Ganges. And then there was the third floor. And so it's this third floor where the Swami was conducting this ritual day after day. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, dear, please read on.
Vishweshwarananda worshipped 5 forms of the Divine Mother: Kali, Tara, Bhuvaneshwari, Chinnamasta, and Kamala. Chinnamasta is also Parvati, Kalikadevi. It's a divine mother, another name. He also worshipped 5 planets in order to propitiate them. Moreover, Saradananda arranged the recitation of the Chandi at the Siddheshwari temple in Bagbazar.
Now the Chandi, for those of you who don't know, is also known as the Devi Mahatmyam. It is 700 verses in praise of Mother Durga. But it also names many other aspects of her she goes by so many names and has so many attributes and aspects. The Chandi, or the Devi Mahatmyam, is one of the most powerful Shakti. It's a Shakta scripture. It tells of Shakti. O Mother, you are the all-pervading Mother. You are the all-pervading Devi, who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. Mother, you are the all-pervading Devi, who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. That's one of the verses from one of the hymns that is in praise of the Mother. So this is what's being spoken of here. The Chandi in its entirety was being recited, and of course the priests would have done this, and they would have done it with great feeling, so to speak. So would you read that again, please, dear?
Sure, Brother Shankara. Vishweshwarananda worshipped 5 forms of the Divine Mother: Kali, Tara, Bhuvaneshwari, Chinnamasta, and Kamala. He also worshipped 5 planets in order to propitiate them. Moreover, Saradananda arranged the recitation of the Chandi at the Siddheshwari temple in Bagbazar. In addition to performing these rituals, the Mother's devotees and disciples prayed and repeated mantras for her recovery. Swami Saradeshananda later wrote, apart from medical treatments, there were performances of rituals propitiating the deities, stars, and planets, and there was a homa fire for the recovery of the Mother. Sometimes she felt a little better, but there was no lasting effect. Every day a monk, Saradeshananda, brought fresh flowers and spotless bell leaves from Belur Math for the ritual and homa, and fresh lemons for the Mother. One morning, when Saradeshananda arrived at the shrine of Udbodhan, he found that Kapil Maharaj, Swami Vishveshwarananda, was very much disturbed. The gut in which he was performing the special ritual had all of a sudden sprung a leak that morning. Everyone was sad and anxious. They replaced it with a new one, but unfortunately, that one also was leaking. Kapil Maharaj hurriedly went to a shop and bought a new one after carefully examining it. After cleaning and filling it with water, it was placed on the altar. Thus, the worship was delayed. This day, they were having a special worship and homa for the guardian deity of the mother's destiny.
Now, this kind of thing, of course, when an article of worship like this is flawed, leaking in this case, it's regarded, the reason people were disturbed and anxious is it's regarded as a very inauspicious omen. And so it took the first one and the second one leaked. It was only until they made the effort to find a third one that was whole that everything was able to go ahead. And so there are special hours that these rituals are supposed to be performed. And this is why it's mentioned that it was delayed. None of this would be so carefully written about and mentioned by Swami Chaitananda if it weren't, in his opinion, very important. So I just mentioned that so that we pay close attention to the development of the story as we're being told it. So would you please start over again, please, about the ritual where it says that Kapil Maharaj was disturbed.
Okay. The gut in which he was performing the special ritual had all of a sudden sprung a leak that morning. Everyone was sad and anxious. They replaced it with a new one, but unfortunately, that one also was leaking. Kapil Maharaj hurriedly went to a shop and bought a new one after carefully examining it. After cleaning and filling it with water, it was placed on the altar. Thus, the worship was delayed. This day, they were having a special worship and homa for the guardian deity of the mother's destiny. This sudden mishap created deep concern in the minds of all. When a monk told the whole story to Yoginma, she said with a deep sigh, "Yes, my child, I understand it all. It's not the jar that has developed the leak. We have lost favor with fortune."
Bah. Now this coming from Yoganma, this we are to understand that Yoganma is a goddess made incarnate. She was one of the gopis during Radha Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan. This is what we're told. She's one of the mother's handmaidens. So would you read that again, please, what Yoganma said?
Okay, sure. This sudden mishap created deep concern in the minds of all. When a monk told the whole story to Yoginma, she said with a deep sigh, "Yes, my child, I understand it all."
I understand it all. This is not said lightly by Yoginma. She truly understood the meaning of this omen. And so what does she say?
It's not the jar that has developed the leak. We have lost favor with fortune. When this ritual had no effect, some disciples earnestly prayed to Holy Mother, "Mother, if you say once, let this disease be cured, it will definitely go away." The mother replied, "Can I pray such a thing, my child? Whatever is the wish of the master, that will happen. What more can I say? Whenever the master takes me, I shall go."
Now, this is exactly the same kind of language that Sri Ramakrishna used when he was implored to save himself from the death of that throat cancer. And of course, it had metastasized, and he was becoming just a skeleton. And his disciples said, "Master, if you just say the word, you will be cured." And he said virtually the same thing, not addressing it to the master, but addressing it, mentioning Mother Kali. Uh, so, but then we must remember that when Sri Ramakrishna left the body, that Sri Sarada Devi said, "Oh my Kali, where have you gone?" So would you read again what the mother said, what was asked of her, and what she said?
When this ritual had no effect, some disciples earnestly prayed to Holy Mother, "Mother, if you say once, let this disease be cured, it will definitely go away." The mother replied, "Can I pray such a thing, my child? Whatever is the wish of the master, that will happen. What more can I say? Whenever the master takes me, I shall go."
And of course, she meant that from the very depth of her being. This is not a posture. This is not I'm being a good woman. I'm being a good person. No, this is she. This is the truth of her being and her understanding of the situation. So this is one of the things that we can be instructed by when we are afflicted. What do we pray for? Do we pray to be cured? Or do we pray, "Oh, Master, oh Mother, thy will be done"? Of course, sometimes we just cry out in such, particularly when we're in pain, we cry out and say, "Oh, Mother, take this from me. Take this from me." But then we must try and remember to say also, "But thy will be done. Thy will be done." Any comments or questions from anyone? This is such a crucial thing that we just read, so well presented by Swami Chaitananda. Anything at all from anyone?
That leak was a bad omen, Brother Shankara. We consider still in India certain things when there is a bad signals. Okay, this is bad omen.
Yes,
Something
that's,
bad is going to happen. That's how we still believe in that.
well, that's what Yogin Ma said. She understands it all. She understands it all. And she said, it's not the jar that has developed the leak. Of course it had developed a leak. But she said, that's not the meaning. The meaning is we've lost favor with fortune. In other words, there's nothing to be done now. And so then it's the devotees began to say to Mother, "Well, Mother, you save yourself. Nothing else is of any avail. Nothing else is working. You save yourself." And she said what she said. "Whatever the Master wishes will be done. Whenever he takes me, I shall go." So anything else? Yes, dear.
Yes, Brother Shankara. I don't mean to sound, argumentative or anything, but Yogin Ma's reassurance definitely that we have lost fortune, and your interpretation that means we need to surrender and turn over to the higher. I get that, and I like that aspect. But these omens, sometimes when people we're doing a puja at home or something with all the best intentions, and something doesn't go right, and people start saying, oh, it's a bad omen. It sort of instills more of a fear, and the peace of the occasion gets affected. So how do we not uh, get superstitious, bound by superstition and fear, instead look on it in a more meaningful way?
Yogin Ma would not have said what she said, dear, if it's superstition. It is not superstition. It is a reality. And so what do? We simply offer what has happened to the divine and surrender the what actually happened and its results, the action and its results. We offer those to the divine and surrender, just as the mother said, I am completely surrendered to what the master wills, and whatever he says will happen. So it's not superstition. If it were superstition, Swami Chaitanananda would not have presented it so carefully. It is not superstition. There is reality in the fact that when we're performing these rituals, there is a certain element of risk that things will go wrong. Performing Kali pujas, for example, there is real risk in performing a Kali puja. It must be done with utmost care, and there be no mistakes, and everything must go exactly correctly. Otherwise, there can be consequences. This is what the Swamis told us in Hollywood. And so when we attended a Kali Puja, which is a night puja and rather unnerving in some ways. I mean, there's this fierce image of the mother that is being worshipped. It's not a benign image. It's a fierce image of the mother that is being worshipped. And it's just as Swami Vivekananda said in that poem that I read on Sunday morning. We have to surrender everything to the divine. We have to not just surrender it, but celebrate it. And if there are disastrous effects, well, karma is karma. So, Swayam Didi, I just do not believe that Swami Chaitanananda would have presented this so carefully, so thoroughly, and so dramatically, if you will, if it were not for the fact that there is real meaning to it. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I wasn't quite questioning Swami Chaitanananda's, because him and everybody else there in the book, the characters are not ordinary sort of beings. I'm talking about like people that the day to day, the interpretation that's sometimes given by lay people for, I just don't know how to, well, of course, I listen and surrender, but
they may unnecessarily exaggerate it, dear. They may make more of it. People tend to be sentimental. That is to say, they'll let their imagination make more of something than it really deserves. Nothing to be done about that. But whatever happened, if there was some inauspicious aspect of performing a ritual, this is what I'm saying. It's not superstition that there is some inauspiciousness about it. And so we simply turn all that over to the divine and say, all actions and their fruits are thine. So please, and this is why at the end of a puja, a pujari always asks for, it's not forgiveness, but remission of any mistakes that have been made. It isn't as if they feel they need to be forgiven, but they just ask that there not be any dramatic consequences as a result of any mistakes they've made.
Thank you.
Okay, dear. I think this was a very important discussion, and I'm really glad you brought it up, Swayam, because I think we've all experienced it. You know, people making too much of some inauspicious. Even Sri Ramakrishna did it, and regretted it later. When he broke his arm, he blamed Holy Mother, said, "Oh, it's because you've come on an inauspicious day." He later Kali pointed out to him, that was not the reason that you broke your arm. You broke your arm in order that you would understand what it meant for the ordinary person to suffer and lose their focus because of pain. And so then he regretted that he had made this statement about the reason he broke his arm, or dislocated his arm, actually. It wasn't so much broken as it was severely dislocated. But it wasn't until some time later that Kali, the mother, who was always his resource, revealed to him the reason he had. And so then this developed a different kind of compassion in him. You know, Sri Ramakrishna was always learning throughout his whole life about what it meant to be an ordinary human being. Of course, he was a human being, but he was anything but ordinary. That's the nature of Ishvara. They take human form, but they're not an ordinary human being in any sense of the word. But they do suffer the same thing that human beings, the things that human beings suffer. For example, one time when he was doing the worship in the Kali temple, when he was serving as the priest to Kali and was doing the worship, the Rani Rasmani, the woman who had financed that temple, built it, and was maintaining it so lavishly, she was involved in a lawsuit. And during the time that Sri Ramakrishna was doing the worship, she was thinking and asking the mother to help her win this lawsuit. Well, Sri Ramakrishna turned and actually slapped her face. He slapped her in the face. Now, to those of us here in the West, it's not really possible for us to understand from the deep inner perspective just how dramatic an insult that was. And of course, the other priests just, demanded that Sri Ramakrishna immediately be fired and driven out from the place and so on. But Rani Rasmani had the presence of being, the presence of heart and mind to understand that this was somehow deserved. Yet, Sri Ramakrishna later said that it was a very important lesson for him as well, that he had to understand that others were not capable of the kind of focus and were going to be, they would yield to their desire not to lose a lawsuit or or some other thing. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult for us as jivas to in any way model ourselves at this highest level on the behavior, model ourselves by the behavior of the incarnations. Though we can be instructed by them that whatever you do, offer that action and its fruits, because they are truly the doer. As Sri Ramakrishna says, as Krishna says in the Gita, God alone or goddess alone is the doer. And I quoted that passage from the Chandi. Mother, you are the all-pervading Devi, who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. In other words, whatever is happening, she is the one making it happen. And so we offer all of our actions and their fruits to them and ask to be relieved of the burden of our small s self and come into a higher and higher knowledge of our inner being, our true original nature, as Swami Sridharananda is fond of saying, your true original nature. So any comments or questions about this? Yes, Balaji.
It reminds me one thing. I don't remember which Swami was hit by somebody, and then the disciples bring him back, and they were taking care of him. So they wanted to see whether he had any concussion or anything. That's why they asked him, "Do you know where you are?" He says, "The hand that hit me and the hand that who is giving me the milk is the same."
Yes, the full story is this. The Swami came upon a physical altercation between two people, and he stepped in between, trying to stop this brutality. And the assailant, the one who was being brutal, then hit the Swami and knocked him unconscious. So his brother monks came and got him, and they took him back to the monastery, and they were bringing him around, and they were giving him some milk. And they asked him, did he know where he was? Yes, he knew where he was. So what happened? And that's when he said, the same hand that knocked me unconscious is now giving me milk. That God alone is the doer. And so thank you for bringing that story up, Balakrishna. And the name of the Swami, it's just one of the stories that's told. It's a Puranic story, and Sri Ramakrishna tells it in the Gospel. It's told elsewhere as well. Thank you for bringing it up, because it very well illustrates just what was being said. Thank you. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears, we still have some time. Let's be done.
What more can I say? Whenever the master takes me, I shall go. In addition, Holy Mother indicated to those close to her that she would soon depart from this world. One day, when Gaurima came to see her, she said, "My time has come to go. When I die, keep a little relic of my body in your ashrama." Another day, she said,
Gaurima had started a convent. Remember, there were 3 of these women, Gaurima, Golapma, and Yoginma. These are the three principal handmaidens of the mother. They came with her by their prayer. They were with her as one of the as the gopis when she was Radha, and so they came with her. They prayed to come with her when she came this time as well. So Gauri Ma had started a convent, and that's what she meant by keep a little relic of my. And this, of course, is an instruction to all of the. And if you remember, Swami Sarvadevananda has a tiny relic of the mother with which he will bless you when he comes here. All of us receive the blessing of this relic of the mother, and there are other relics as well in that little collection that he has. So this is a very potent instruction. And so what she says to Gauri Ma is, it resonated with the whole of the Ramakrishna order and all of the disciples. Anything else from anyone? All right, dear, please read that again.
In addition, Holy Mother indicated to those close to her that she would soon depart from this world. One day, when Gauri Ma came to see her, she said, "My time has come to go. When I die, keep a little relic of my body in your ashrama." Another day, she said to someone, "Do not grieve. I shall have to go." Next subchapter is towards the end. During her last pilgrimage in Varanasi, when Surabala had cursed her, "Sister-in-law, you die," the mother remarked, "Surabala does not know that I am deathless." Holy Mother was not afraid of death at all. She silently forbore all suffering and continued to help others. On the morning of 8 March 1920, Swami Brahmananda came to see Holy Mother.
Now, Swami Brahmananda was at this time the president of the Ramakrishna order. And his relationship with the mother was very, very, it was unique. One time someone said to the mother, "Oh, mother, all the boys come to see you," meaning all of Sri Ramakrishna's direct disciples that had become monastic. That's what she meant by the boys. The disciple said, "Mother, all the boys come to see you, but Rakal never comes." And she says, "Oh, whenever I wish to see him, Rakal appears before me." This is what she said. So their relationship was otherworldly in that sense. Whenever I wish to see him, Rakal appears before me. So when we hear that Swami Brahmananda came to see Holy Mother, you can imagine that it was part of this profound and he is the eternal companion of Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. You can read the book, The Eternal Companion, and see exactly what I mean. That book was written by Swami Prabhavananda and portrays the relationship that Brahmananda Rakal had with the Master and the Mother. Okay, dear, please read on.
Yes, on the morning of 8 March 1920, Swami Brahmananda came to see Holy Mother. She was a little better. The mother was silent and Brahmananda was sad and grave. This was his last visit. He left for Bhubaneswar on 26th March. On 19th March, Swamis Shivananda and Vijnanananda came from Belur Math. On 12th May, Swami Shivananda returned. The chariot festival was held on 18th June, and Swami Shivananda came again to see the mother. Swami Ishanananda wrote, Mahapurush Maharaj quite often came from Belur Math to Udbodhan by boat.
Mahapurush Maharaj was the affectionate name for Swami Shivananda. Swami Shivananda was, of course, a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. And Mahapurush Maharaj means great soul, Mahapurush, great soul. And Maharaj, of course, great king, great soul, great king. He was the second president of the order. When Brahmananda left the body, Shivananda became the second president. Vijnanananda also was a president of the order later. I forget which number he was. So this is who Mahapurush Maharaj was. So Ishanananda wrote,
Swami Ishanananda wrote, Mahapurush Maharaj quite often came from Belur Math to Udbodhan by boat. He discussed the mother's physical condition and treatment with Sharat Maharaj and then returned to the mat. He did not go upstairs to disturb the bedridden mother because he did not want to make her feel uncomfortable. Many monks from different centers of India visited the mother during this period.
now these were the centers that had been established by Swami Brahmananda. You know, he had, at Swamiji's request and instruction, he had started centers all over India, and monks, the second generation monks, as well as some of the first generation monks like Ramakrishnananda and so on, were posted to these various centers. So many of them were coming. And of course, this was at the encouragement of Swami Sharadananda, who was the general secretary of the order. He was paying for their travel. And of course, Premananda and the other senior monks were encouraging these younger monks to come. So many monks from different centers of India visited the mother during this period. Again, Swami Chaitanyananda would not mention this if it were not significant. So please read that again, dear, and then go on to some slept.
Yes. Many monks from different centers of India visited the mother during this period. Some slept in the courtyard due to the shortage of space. As there was no electric fan or air conditioning in Udbodhan house, Holy Mother suffered from the summer heat. Her suffering was made worse by her fever and excessive bile secretion. Most of the time, someone fanned her with a palm leaf fan. Every day, Swami Shivananda selected some monks and sent them to Udbodhan house from Belur Math to serve the mother, although the mother had sufficient attendants there.
This was a grace to those monks, of course. That's why he was sending them. Not that she needed the service, as was pointed out just now. He was sending them so that they would have her darshan. They would have the benefit. He knew, they all knew that the mother was going. So many of these younger monks, they had not met the mother. They had heard of her, of course, but they had not met her or spent any time in her presence. So that's why they were being sent. And we're very glad to go, I'm sure. Okay, dear.
Okay. Kaviraj Shamadas noticed that the mother's hands and feet were swollen. He changed the medicine and prescribed Punarnava spinach and amarul spinach so that the mother would get back her appetite. Those types of spinach were not available in Calcutta, but when the news reached Belur Math, the monks searched and found some in the flower garden of the monastery and in some other places. At Swami Shivananda's instruction, every morning a brahmachari crossed the Ganges to take fresh spinach to Udbodhan. The monk bowed down to the mother, got news about her physical condition, and reported to Shivananda when he returned to Belur Math. Holy Mother's visitors were strictly restricted. Only the monks and close disciples and devotees could see her, and only from outside her room. No one was supposed to touch her feet. A few sincere people who came from far away saw the mother after getting permission from Saradananda.
It's always this business of when you make the effort to come from far away, always some consideration is given to you. When you go to the effort and the time and the expense to come from far away, exceptions are made. So these were her disciples, but clearly not close disciples. They lived far away. But when they came like this, they would get her darshan after getting permission from Sharadananda, who was her gatekeeper, her guardian. Any comments or questions from anyone? Okay, dear, please read on.
Sometimes it's wrong to keep a patient isolated in a room because that makes the patient more depressed. If a patient is surrounded by loved ones, that patient feels joy and hope inside and knows there are people who care for him or her.
Now, this is Swami Chaitananda speaking, so please read that again with that in mind.
Yes.
This is what I'm saying to us.
Yes.
You know, okay, keep in mind now that this is Swami Chaitananda speaking to us, and he's offering something that is instructive to us.
Sometimes it is wrong to keep a patient isolated in a room because that makes the patient more depressed. If a patient is surrounded by loved ones, that patient feels joy and hope inside and knows there are people who care for him or her. Sometimes we think that patients should not talk because it will make them weaker. Of course, there are some visitors who talk about worldly things or about their problems, and those kinds of people make the patient tired and bored.
The Swami knows this of his own experience.
These sorts of visitors should be barred, but it is good for patients to talk to those whom they love and with whom they are well acquainted. They relieve the patient's suppressed pain and agony. Very true. Saradeshananda had lived with the mother as an attendant for a long time in Jairambati, and she was very fond of him.
No, that was you read the wrong name, dear. It wasn't Sardananda. It's
Saradeshananda.
Saradeshananda.
Saradeshananda had lived with the mother as an attendant for a long time in Jairambati, and she was very fond of him. There was no room for him to stay at Udbodhan house, so he traveled from Belur Math to Udbodhan every day to see her. After seeing her, he bowed down to the master's image in her room, prayed to him for the mother's recovery, and returned to Belur Math.
Yeah, it's not easy for us to understand the difficulty of this. It seems like an easy journey, but it's not. It's a good distance from Belur Math to Udbodhan, and there was no bridge in those days. You had to go by boat, and it was it was a little treacherous to cross the Ganges. Sometimes, particularly with big steamships were coming, these little boats that were crossing the river. The waves from the passing of these big steamships would rock the boat, and it required expert boatmen. So this is the reason the Swami brings this up, is that it was an austerity for him to do this. Apparently, he decided not to sleep in the courtyard as some of the monks did. So he went back and forth every day, and then returned to Bellarmont. Okay.
He had a great desire to talk to her and serve her during this critical time. One day at noon, the Swami went upstairs on an errand and peeped through the slightly open door. The mother saw him and called him inside.
Mm-hmm.
She asked her female attendant to give him the fan and then leave them alone. The doctor had instructed that she sit reclining on a bolster for an hour after lunch and then lie down to sleep. Saradeshananda began to fan her gently, and the mother talked to him from time to time. She broke her drowsiness talking to her dear disciple. The whole of Udbodhan house was quiet because most people were resting after lunch. Holy Mother told Saradeshananda that despite all kinds of treatment, there had been no good results so far. He consoled her, "Mother, you will be all right by the grace of the Master. Please don't worry." There was no sign of any sorrow or worry in the mother's eyes, face, or words. Seeing her disciple's sad face, the mother pressed her foot with a finger and said, "Look, here is a pitting edema." The Swami looked at the hollow on the mother's foot intently. Then the mother said, "My son, you check with your finger." Saradeshananda knew that he was not supposed to touch the mother's feet. However, because the mother was asking him, he touched the hollow lightly.
Now, the reason she did this, I'll give you an example. Touching the mother's body was a purifying thing. One time, I forget which one of her female relatives it was, had gone to relieve herself and had touched the excrement, and she was beside herself. And she said, "I've tried everything and I don't feel pure." And the mother told her, "Well, do this." And she did that. So, "I still don't feel pure." So finally the mother said, "Well, then touch me. Touch me." And so this is the significance of her asking him to touch her, even though people weren't supposed to, because it would, even though this was a Swami and a very her dear disciple and so on, there would be some pain associated with his touch. There would be some discomfort because she was so pure and he was not that pure. Even though he was very pure indeed, he was not that pure. So for her to ask him to do this was a great, and he knew it too, that it was a great gift and an austerity for the mother. So he touched the hollow lightly. So go on, dear.
Not satisfied, the mother said with a smile, "My son, press it hard and check for yourself." So he pressed hard on the mother's foot and he saw the pitting edema. The way the mother looked at the hollow in her foot, it seemed as if it were not her foot but someone else's.
Yes, that's the thing about these holy ones. They don't identify with their body at all. Okay,
It took a long time for that hollow to vanish because of her anemia and edema. Then the mother changed the topic and talked about other things. After an hour, the mother lay down and slept for a short while. The Swami continued to fan her. When she woke up, she wanted to rinse her mouth. The Swami brought a pan and water. There was a half-chewed beetle roll in her mouth, which she spit out first and then rinsed her mouth. The Swami took the pan outside on the veranda and washed it. Just then it struck him that he had lost something valuable that day, the mother's prasad. Holy Mother then wanted to drink some water, and the Swami gave her a glass, but it was difficult for her to swallow. He rubbed her back gently with his left hand and rubbed below her throat with his right hand. Holy Mother looked at her disciple graciously and drank slowly. The disciple was overjoyed that the mother had fulfilled his desire by taking personal service from him.
Yes, this is, it just exalted him. And notice that his name is hers, Saradeshanand. Saradeshanand. Servant, having the bliss of being a servant of Sharda. So this is an embodiment of that in these moments. Any comments or questions from anyone?
Yes, Brother Shankara.
Yes, dear.
Okay, so you were talking about how the Swami would touch Holy Mother, and even it would give Holy Mother pain. So, like, if that's a Swami, and I mean, like me, for example, like, what if like I'm like at the shrine and I'm like taking like the incense tray and emptying it and putting it back? Of course, the Swami is more pure than I am. So does our impurity affect Ramakrishna and Sharada Devi in their subtle bodies?
No, not at all, dear. When you're doing that kind of service, it's a kind of service to them, of course, and it is appreciated, it is loved, but it does not have any effect on their subtle body being. Only in the sense of it gives them joy to have their disciple, and you are theirs because of your diksha. You are theirs. That's not the only way to become theirs, but it is emphatically a very potent way to become theirs. So the thing to keep in mind is if you there's a picture of the mother in the foyer of the chapel. If you touch the mother's feet there, do it lightly and quickly, because that is their darshan, and they are present. She is present in that picture, and so. But if she didn't want you to touch that picture, it would not be there, and her bare feet would not be available for you to touch. So please don't hesitate, any of us, from taking her darshan. She continues to be and bear these austerities for our sake. That picture would not be there. Her bare feet would not be there for us to touch if it were not her intention for it to be so. And she is unveiled, if you'll notice. And furthermore, her hands are in what Brother Dhruva called the bird's nest mudra. She is offering us shelter like a baby bird in her hands. Look at that picture when you have a chance and see how her hands are. This is what Brother Dhruva referred to as the baby bird mantra, mudra, the position of the mother's hands. And I don't know if that's an official designation of a mudra or not, or whether this is just simply Dhruva's insight. But he has great insight into the mother. It's his primary relationship. So we must not be afraid to have a relationship with the mother or the master. They are there for that purpose. And I'm really glad you asked that question, Aaron, because that needs to be kept straight for all of us. Those of us who have pictures of the master and the mother, the presence is there. It's, as we're told over and over by Sri Ramakrishna, by Holy Mother herself, but the Swamis have emphasized over and over. There is no difference between the reality and its name and form. When you say the mother's name, when you gaze on her form in a picture, this is why she said we were so fortunate to have those pictures, because they are present there. And she did say that. She remarked on that very emphatically, how fortunate we were to have these pictures. And you'll notice that each of them worshiped their own picture as well as one another's image. I don't think the master ever worshipped a picture of the mother, but he did worship her in the Shodashi Puja. Anything else from anyone?
I'll stop here, Brother Shankara. It's
Yes,
time.
that's a good place to stop.
Yes.
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I remember that story of Swami Vivekananda, when the importance of the holy one's pictures. I don't remember exactly which Maharaja that Swamiji was visiting, and I think somebody asked him like, "This is just a picture, it's not. What is it worth?" or something like that. So then he told there was also a picture of the Maharaja there. So he told the servant, "Okay, spit on that.
Well, first put it on the floor. First take it from the wall. Put it on the floor. Now spit on it. And of course, the servant couldn't do that because the Maharaja, I don't remember which Maharaja it was either. I don't think it was Khetri, but it was some Maharaja that he was visiting. And the Maharaja himself was the one who asked the question, is there any value in these pictures, these images? And that was Swamiji's response. He saw that there was a picture of the Maharaja on the wall, and he instructed the servant to take it off the wall, put it on the floor, and spit on it. And of course, the servant was completely unable to do that. And so the Swami's point was made. The image and the person are the same. The image and the being are the same. Because it lives in our hearts, it's not a matter of physical reality. Of course, it is a physical reality also, but it's because these things live in our hearts, not in our minds, but in our hearts. Thank you, as always, Swayam. A very good question, or very good comment, I should say. Anything else from anyone? If anyone knows or can find out who that Maharaja was, can look up that story and find out and tell us next week. We'll repeat this story because it's very instructive. Anything else?
I will try to do that, Brother Shankara.
Okay, dear. Yeah, that was an interesting incident in Swamiji's. He had so many interesting incidents with disciples and devotees and others who regarded him with reverence, sought his. So, anything else from anyone before we close? Well, dear ones, you know what this means. This is so sweet to be together this way, studying the art of spirituality together. But also to discuss these. And you may remember I said this was a particularly auspicious time for us to be discussing this, because there was just a lunar eclipse, very potently aspected. And if you can remember, no sooner than we started reading about the astrology of Mother's death. Saradeshananda had it, not Saradeshananda, Saradananda had her horoscope looked into. And this is when they began all these rituals and so on. The Kaviraj, having looked at and consulted with astrologers, recommended these rituals and so on. So this was a particularly auspicious time. Just this morning, early this morning, there was this full lunar eclipse, very heavily aspected. You can look it up. Very heavily aspected by other, particularly the major planets, the 5 planets that are mentioned in the reading we had today, and the other more distant astrological aspects, all in a very potent configuration. So it was very interesting that this also happened on election day. We'll see if there's anything that emerges from that we can in any way discern as that this lunar eclipse and its aspects was causative. Any final thought from anyone?
Namaste, Brother Shankara. I woke up around 5 o'clock this morning and I saw the eclipse for like 2 hours.
Bah! Good for you,
I
dear.
have a telescope. I couldn't put the telescope because it was all the way down. So I couldn't. Yeah, it was actually, I've taken some pictures also. It was blood orange actually, kind of.
Yes, it was a blood moon. And that too has significance. That's the mother's color. That is.
Yeah, I sat outside and I chanted my Guru Mantra maybe for half an hour. And before that too. So it went on for like 2.5 hours actually.
Yes. Yes. For those of you who are not familiar with what a full lunar eclipse is, the sun, the moon, and the earth are in such an aspect that the moon perfectly moves through the earth's shadow and is completely obscured from any sunlight. But the reason that it is blood red like that is because of the reflected light from the earth. So that's why it's called a blood moon.
When I saw at 4:30, it was already gray, Brother Shankara. We had a cloudy morning, midnight. So I couldn't see the red. I set the alarm at 4 o'clock and woke up and went outside. I saw the grayer part. It was just gray, half gray. I think gray and blood red and then gray again.
Yeah.
So I saw the last gray part. Yeah, I missed the blood red.
Yeah. Well, dears, thank you for all of your remarks, and thank you, Shailesh. Thank you, Haima. Anything else from anyone? All right. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we be always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Om Hari Om. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. Beloved, make it so. So good night, everyone, until tomorrow evening. For those of you who decide to join us for the reading and discussion of Divine Grace, the Swami Ranganathananda book, our reader for that will be Swayam. So until tomorrow evening, for those of you who can join us, Jai Ma, Jai Ma, Jai Ma.